And of course, there's loads of films out that you can get sort of on demand on your timeline, or you can just buy the DVD in, or, just hit your premium video on demand service. And there's loads of offerings going on there for the moment. Obviously, Trolls, as we know, is not able to be shown in cinemas, so that's a premium video on demand offering this week. You rent it for 48 hours and the kids can watch it as many times as they want. But, of course, there are DVDs as well, Miss Perfect. So, should we have a look at what else you can have this week?
Yes. Do you know what? I love this kind of reboot, and also the second movie of this franchise worked really well as well. So we've got Jumanji: The Next Level, which is out on Monday.
Yeah.
Wow, this, they nailed it. I didn't know how they were going to do this. And they absolutely nailed it when it came to getting this reboot. So you got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I told you we had a cuddly rock here somewhere. We have Jack Black, Karen Gillan. Who am I missing? There's one more person. Am I sure? Am I right? Oh, in this one, we've got Danny Glover.
Awkwafina and
Danny
Jonas,
Glover.
don't we?
Yeah, and Danny Glover. And also Danny DeVito in this as well.
Of course, we've got the Dannys. We've got both Dannys, didn't we? We've got Glover and DeVito.
We do indeed. And this is okay, if you've liked the reboot of the new Jumanji, so the second or third in the franchise.
This is the third, actually, because it is all one series. It is all one continuity. The Robin Williams one has happened. Yes. So this is part 3, even though everyone calls it Jumanji 2. Yeah. By the way, just to revive the thing that I always keep saying, they should have called the last one Jumanji, and this should have been Jumanji 3. Then there would be less confusion, and we'd all know. Okay? Just putting it out there.
Fine. Okay, well, firstly, this definitely plays a great nostalgic throwback to all of the other previous movies, but also the second one, I think just the way it converted into the idea of a video game is absolute genius. So what you're getting here is the same but different. So it's much of the stuff that you loved from the first. It's not as surprising as the first, but it definitely is enjoyable. So you've got a different adventure that they go on, but it's still something that you can follow, will have its own surprises. The humour in it is great. Karen Gillan, I think, is brilliant in this.
She is. I think she seems to have, as she has gained more experience in the Marvel character that she plays, I feel like she seems to have stepped up as a sort of star presence. Like when she turns up for Jumanji: The Next Level, she comes to play. And obviously the gimmick here as well is that there's now a body swapping. There's more of a body swapping element to it than there was previously, because we're now getting body swapping within the game, and we're getting new characters being introduced to it, like the Dannys, like the Glover and the DeVito Dannys, playing The Rock and Kevin Hart, respectively. I'll tell you what, I've got a little snippet of that.
Holy... Wait. If I'm... Then you... Spencer? Why does everybody keep calling me Spencer?
No, that is Grandpa Eddie, and that is Milo.
Pleased to meet you.
What? Then where's Bethany? And where's Spencer?
I don't know! Okay, the game, it didn't let us pick our avatar, so...
Because it's busted!
Yeah, okay.
Are we dead?
You know, I was just wondering the same thing. Did I die and turn into some kind of a small, muscular Boy Scout?
I really love Kevin Hart's Danny Glover voice. I just think it's great.
Yeah, I do, right? But I have to, thinking back to when I saw this now, the one criticism that I do have is that I actually really enjoyed the body swapping that they all did in the second film. And I don't think it was as successful in this one as much.
Because there's more of it as well, I think.
Yeah.
It shows how ropey it can be.
Yeah, it's quite hard to sustain. But overall, I think it worked really well. And I great additions with Awkwafina and, the two Dannys and stuff like that. I think it works really well. And kudos to all the other actors for actually having to pull off playing them. Works really, really well.
True.
So, yeah, lots of fun with Jumanji. If you haven't seen it before, definitely check it out. It's out on DVD and Blu Ray, and you can get that. So, moving on, we have another movie which I've seen, and I actually really, really enjoyed and was really surprised that it didn't do...
Because this was quite divisive, I think. I think there were people on both sides of the fence on this one, I found, when it came out.
Do you know what? When I reviewed it, I thought...
This is Motherless Brooklyn. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought that this movie would actually be an awards contender, much more than it actually was. I got completely sucked into it and I loved it. So essentially Edward Norton plays a lonely private detective called Lionel. He suffers from Tourette syndrome but has this almost brilliant photographic memory. So after the death of his boss and friend called Frank, who's played by Bruce Willis, he ends up scouring the jazz...
Ah, yes, Bruce Willis, that was it.
Yeah, so he ends up scouring the jazz clubs and slums of 1950s Brooklyn. And essentially trying to kind of not avenge his friend's death, but trying to find out why it all happened. And he uncovers this web of secrets and corruption along the way. So it is that kind of classic sort of gangstery style period drama that works. I think Edward Norton's portrayal of someone with Tourette's is flawless in this. So, the thing is, at the time...
He loves those roles, doesn't he, Edward
He really
Norton?
does.
Even because he's
a great character.
Am I right in thinking he wrote and directed this?
Yes, he did. So it was an absolute triple threat on this. So I think it's gutting for him that he actually didn't get a lot more awards exposure to this. But, around that time, The Irishman had kind of come out as well. And some people have felt that was a little bit slow or too long. And this, for me, was kind of that great alternative. The idea of like a private eye trying to piece together lots of clues, it's a really compelling guessing game. And you get this amazing feel of what New York was like in the 1950s for both the affluent side of New York, but also the really poor side as well. So, there's a really, really, really good thing. And also some great supporting cast in this as well. We've got Alec Baldwin in this as well.
I was going to say, isn't my boy Alec in this?
Your boy Alec is in it. He plays a very Alec Baldwin character in it. I won't say anything more than that.
Of course he does.
Yeah, we've got Gugu Mbatha Raw, who's kind of the love interest in it. Again, she's kind of similar. She reminds me of her character in The Morning Show in kind of a very similar way. She's really, really good with that. And then we've got William Dafoe in it as well. So look, there's jazz, there's politics, there's gunfights, there's detective work. You've got a little bit of Forrest Gump feel in the middle of it all. So it's a great all-round film. I know
what more could you ask for?
Exactly. So don't let it divide people. Just go and check it out yourself. It is available on Blu-ray. Now, we did mention one person in that film.
I was going to say, Gugu Mbatha Raw. I'm a big fan of her.
Yeah, she's brilliant. And you know what? She's really coming into her own and, providing kind of that real sort of step up in terms of larger leading roles.
She was great in Belle. Do you remember Belle a couple of years ago?
Yeah. I mean, that was her debut and her launch film, really. But what really works for her is this film that came out. You really loved this film. I wasn't as hot on it. It's called Misbehaviour. It's the story of 1970s beauty pageant in London. It's based on a true story.
It was Miss World. It was the feminists protesting the Miss World competition, but they're led here by what feels like a sort of almost cross-generational team-up dynamic between Jessie Buckley and Keira Knightley. So, kind of who was once the starlet of the moment and who will be the next starlet of the moment, finally in one film at the same time.
Yeah, and I have to say I've got a huge love for Jessie Buckley. I think she's a really, really clever character. Again, I felt like Keira Knightley's playing Keira Knightley. I'm not a massive fan of her.
I remember.
Yeah, I know. We always kind of have a little bit of loggerheads over this, but to be fair, this film it's very British. It feels a bit like brassed off, but it doesn't quite hit the heights of like an iconic British film. It's quite forgettable in some respects.
And while you're off with your fanatics, Gareth and I are looking after your daughter. Seems to me liberation just means getting someone else to do your job for you.
So you think it's all right, do you, that one half of the world has all the power and the other half just has to lump it?
Oh, don't be so melodramatic.
Don't be so blind. You couldn't even get a bank account without Dad's permission. The doctor wouldn't give you birth control.
That was one bank manager and one doctor.
Just because you swallowed it doesn't mean I have to.
Keira Knightley showing her love for the cause there, and it's a great argument. I think this is actually a far more important film than it was given the opportunity to be, because it had the misfortune of opening, right when the coronavirus was starting to become quite serious. I think for us in our daily lives, obviously it was always serious, but it affected the opening of this film. That's a real shame, because I really would have loved this to have been afforded the chance to actually have something of a prominent theatrical legacy. I thought it was a great movie. I had a lot of fun with it.
Well, yeah, you say that. I feel like the subject matter is very important. I would have rather watched a documentary about it than I would of this film. It didn't really.
That's absolutely fair. I can understand that. I think to be honest, I think there may be a resonance in there just for me for the comedy side as well, from the likes of like Greg Kinnear as Bob Hope, which I just thought was an amazing casting. Keely Hawes, Rhys Ifans. I thought Rhys Ifans was hilarious. I know Jonnie Hurn and I sat and laughed our asses off at this one. We had a great time with it. But so that's out on premium VOD only. I don't think that's getting a disc release. I think that one's on premium VOD, but sort of buy to keep as a digital copy.